Welcome to this episode of Their Story, where we spotlight Sierra Leoneans who are built of the sterner stuff. We bring to you stories of success, impact, resilience, and courage. On this episode, we share a story of someone whose name has become synonymous with accountability, transparency, and attention to detail. Good day and welcome, Domitable Lara Taylor-Pearce.
Just Lara.
Very good to see you. Thank you for welcoming us into your home.
You're welcome.
How have you been? It's been a minute.
Oh, I've been okay. I've been relaxing. I've been traveling. I've had the opportunity to go to countries I wanted to go to. This year, for example, I went to Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. I went to Brazil a few years ago. You know, just that kind of. Last year was in Antigua. So I've been busy.
You definitely do deserve the break. Seems like you're enjoying it.
Yes.
But let's start from the beginning. A lot of us know Lara Taylor-Pearce from the public perspective. That's the name we've had so many times on the news and everything. But I'd like you to take us back to understand who is Lara Taylor-Pearce. So if I was to say, introduce yourself, like they used to do when we were in school.
Okay.
Tell us about Lara Taylor-Pearce.
All right. So I'm Lara. I'm a 1960s child. Many people doubt that when I say that. I was born into a very humble and quiet family. My parents were in the education field.
Okay.
My mom was a teacher, and my dad was a executive at the West African Examinations Council.
Uh-huh.
And I'm the eldest of 3 children. So sometimes when I'm a bit fussy, I'm a bit big woman, people will understand that she's used to being there for others. We were taught to be satisfied with what you have. We are taught to make sure waiting not to your own, not put your idea. We were taught to realize that now book no more we get for Giuna. I recall those days when my dad would travel out of Sierra Leone for meetings in the West African region. We were sure that what he will bring back for us were books. And so if people say, this woman waiting, is because of those books. They instill that in us. And we were taught to love each other. We were taught to respect each other and to look out for each other. And over the years, that has carved the way I deal with people and situations. Many times, some people will say, oh, Lara is a bit reserved. No, I am not reserved, but I try to weigh situations before I get into them. I was fortunate to attend a private primary school, not to demean others, but our parents decided that they were going to spend their money on taking us to a smaller setup education-wise. And after that, I attended the great Annie Walsh Memorial School, which also molded me to the kind of person I am today. I did my 6th form at the Albert Academy. So I'm an all-rounder. And then I went to Fobe College, did my first degree in accounting and economics. I qualified in 1991 with my BSc honors. And during my final year, the topic I did for my dissertation was in auditing.
Okay.
And the person who I was told to support the dissertation. Normally, when you're doing a dissertation, you research, you will go talk to different people. And one of the people I spoke to, who I'll never forget, was a gentleman called Donald K.
Okay.
I'm sure many people know him in the accounting world. And so after I graduated, there was an opening at Pittsburgh then.
Okay.
It's KPMG now, but Pittsburgh then. And I joined that organization as a trainee auditor. Career-wise, I grew through the ranks.
Okay.
And I can recall that I had a particular supervisor called Kevin Davidson. He was a very nice person, but he made sure I understood my job. Because when, for example, you would go out and ask a stupid question, and you'll come back and tell him this is what the client said, he will make you feel even more stupid to such an extent that you had no other option to make sure that you got things done properly. So that also shaped the way I did things work-wise. The war came in the 90s, so we had to leave Sierra Leone, and I went away to do my final exams in accounting. I qualified as a chartered accountant in 1997, long time ago. I am now a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Certified Accountants of the UK.
Okay.
But many times, people don't even understand the difference between the professional accounting and the accounting degree. I mean, professional accountancy is a very tough one, and many people have struggled to get that qualification, but we were one of the few lucky ones who were able to sail through. In fact, in 1996, there was a kind of competition in the office, where in the office we were told that the first person to pass the exam before the final exams was going to be funded to study in the UK.
Okay.
And I happened to be that person. I passed the exams, and then the war came. I went away. Between myself and my husband, we managed to pay, and then the office, did what they had to do. It was a lot of sacrifice. If I had stayed in the private sector, my career would have moved
Obviously.
better. Because when you are at the project level, your remuneration, for example, was much higher than what you will get in
the public service.
A public service permanent position. But at that time, it wasn't that bad. Honestly, it wasn't that bad. But then you had to be dealing with individuals who were stuck in their ways, individuals who, some of them, were not there to work. They had their own agendas. And over the years, you realize that, look, you have been sacrificing a lot, and you wanted to make a difference. But at that time, I had a boss.
Okay.
So I had to do as she wanted. She was the strategic leader in the organization, so you had to follow. Of course, we'll give ideas and suggestions, but you had to follow. So in 2011, when she retired, not what story people are saying, she was removed, blah, blah, blah. She retired in April 2011 when she turned 65.
Okay.
And I was asked to act, because even at that, I could remember that the lady who was the secretary of the board was asked there were 4 deputies always at the office. They were asked to get our 4 CVs, and that was taken to the office of the president. And I sat there one day and I was asked to act. I didn't know anybody, and I keep saying, people were surprised. I didn't know anybody at that place. I was asked to act.
So was it a job you wanted? Going in as deputy, did you ever think when you went in that someday I would like to be Auditor General?
Okay, at the beginning, I didn't think of it that way. But over the years, I was there for 4 years as deputy.
Okay.
Over the years, I realized that, look, I would go to meetings sometimes on behalf of my boss, and I will see that, oh, there's a need for changes here, and I can't do it if I'm not there.
Absolutely.
So when the acting thing turned to permanent, I was quite happy with that. So I have the opportunity to make a change. And I think that my time there was a lot of positive change in the whole public sector. It is a lot of sacrifice. You have to love what you're doing. And I loved accountability. I love it, and I love it, and I love it. Because in that space, you're trying to make citizens happy.
Yeah.
And when I realized that indeed what I was doing was making citizens happy, that gave me the zeal to continue. Yes. Because over a period, I realized that if it was for financial gains, I would have left. Because there wasn't, I mean, things like the exchange rate was getting all over the place. I mean, what you were earning this year dropped value-wise a few years down the line. So if it was for the money, I would have left. But I enjoyed doing that, and I had support.
So on day one, now let's talk about in that role. On day one, you are Auditor General. What was your main objective? When you looked at, okay, eventually when I am no longer in this position, what did you want to be remembered for?
So I wanted to be remembered for somebody who made a positive impact in the public financial management realm in Sierra Leone. I was quite young when I became Auditor General. I was in my 40s. And the retirement age is 65. And I had told myself that when I turned 55, I would take an early, because the conditions of service allowed you to take an early retirement. So I would have taken an early retirement last year when I turned 55. I'm 56 now. But last year
you don't look it.
I get that all the time. And I would take an early retirement then and do something else. Yeah. But God did not want it to happen that way. And we take it in good stride.
So, looking back, what do you think was the highlight of your time at the Auditor General's office? Because from a public perspective, there's a lot of good things that you did. There are a lot of innovative things. I know the Ebola audit and all of that. What would you say was your highlight?
So there were things happening behind the scenes, which people would not know. There were only a few of us who were professional accountants at the time when I became Auditor General.
Okay.
And I made up my mind that we'll make sure that we'll have a good crop of people within the organization who will become professional accountants. And up to the time I left, there were over 20-something professional accountants within the organization. I'm sure it's more now, That was a great one for me because we had homegrown professional accountants. In fact, the Audit Service Sierra Leone at the time when I was there became an ACCA-approved employer because we not only had the numbers, we had all the necessary professionalism in place for us to become an ACCA-approved employer. That was one highlight. Another highlight was the ability for auditees to actually appreciate the whole auditing thing. The Audit Service Act at the time made it clear that if, for example, you send out a management letter, that is the report we send out at the end of the audit, and the client should respond within a certain time. If they do not respond, you have the right to write to the Accountant General for them to withhold the salary of the accounting officer. That was a tough one to do, but I had to do it for one or two people. And the message got through, and we stopped having that issue. So I think for me, the ability to implement the law and the ability for even at the auditing level, that's the ministry, department, and agency levels, for them to actually appreciate and respond, I think was a good thing for us. We actually changed the accountability realm in Sierra Leone. Yes.
I believe you did. I don't think there's any denying that happened. And it's interesting you speak of getting the auditee to understand that this is something that needs to happen. It is not a punishment. It is not a witch hunt. There has to be control mechanisms when you're using monies that belong to the people of Sierra Leone. So I think that's really, really commendable. And again, as someone who has worked in the public service, I know the impact, that your office had during your tenure. I want us to talk about the elephant in the room, if you will.
Just a little bit, because there are certain things you just want to just put them at the back of your mind.
Absolutely, and thank you for indulging me. There's a specific report that potentially, brought about a whole lot of brouhaha and everything. Do you regret issuing that report?
Actually, for the records, I did not issue the report. Yeah. Because reports are issued in December of the year of the audit.
Okay.
And I was not in post at the time, so I did not issue the report for the records.
That's quite interesting.
Yes.
And I think that's definitely the first time I am hearing that.
The report was issued in December of the year in question, and I had left in November. In fact, we were in the process of, because whilst I was there, you would have a whole committee of staff who would be sitting down. They call them a report writing committee. They would have had to go on a retreat to make sure things were, I's were dotted, and that the retreat had not even happened before I was asked to leave.
Interesting. That's quite the shocker.
Yes. So if you're talking about the normal management letter between the office and the client, that was also not issued by me. It was actually issued by the deputy in charge of the audit, as it was the process within the organization.
So I have to ask, and this question is not about what charges were proffered at the tribunal and everything.
I'm not talking about that.
What do you think your crime was? Not what they have said or what is in the public domain. Looking back, reflecting, because it sounds to me you've just clarified that, as a matter of fact, the narrative that is out there does not necessarily tally with what transpired. So in all of this, one has to ask, why do you think Lara was such a problem?
I was thinking that if I was ever asked this question, what would I say? And the answer I would say that there was a clash between accountability and ambition. Ambition of those within the organization who thought it's time to become Auditor General.
Okay.
And accountability by those who thought that, why should we be asked how monies were spent? I think that's what happened.
That's quite
I
interesting.
just got caught in the middle.
Yeah, it sounds like collateral damage.
But that's okay. Life moves on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I have to ask, so you mentioned you were meant to go on early retirement. You would have gone on early retirement.
Yes.
You're still not officially the age of retirement, which is 65. I'm curious if the opportunity ever arose and you were asked to come back as Auditor General, would you?
You see, when Mrs. Caesar, God bless her soul, my former boss, retired, and I was asked to act and then eventually appointed, I knew I was dealing with a couple of individuals within an organization who were excited for new things to happen. I have listened to people on the radio, or TV, or in the last few years. Stories have come to my attention of what's going on within the organization now. And I don't think it's the best place for me going forward. No.
Yes. So the short answer there is no. Your Auditor General days are behind you.
Yes, I would say that. Yes, it's not just the title that is the thing. There are lots of things that go into making the title effective. You're dealing with managing a whole institution. You're dealing with not just managing people, managing resources, sourcing resources, and all of that goes into making something nice. And where you may be struggling with getting resources, finances, I think those are these that I just want to put behind me.
Okay.
One of the things I learned from institutions, our kind of institutions, probably in some countries, is the way when they want to be punished, how resources are shortchanged.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that is a lot of headache.
It is.
And I don't think at this point in time where I should be thinking about those things. No, I want a situation where the money is there. Oh, we want you to advise us on something, and I go and I get my pay, and I'm done with that. I shouldn't be the one thinking of how do we get money, how do we account for this money, how do we do this, how will the staff react, what will they say? You have to go ask this person. You have to be running up and down to make sure. It's a lot of administrative matters.
It absolutely is. That sounds like we should expect to see you in consultancy roles going forward.
Well, if I'm available for that and there's something interesting, why not? I mean, I'm a Sierra Leonean, and it's always good to support where the support is needed.
I have to ask, do you recognize how much of an impact you have on an entire generation of Sierra Leoneans? And I ask this because I also come from a mother who has gone on to do so many amazing things. And it always dawns on me that people like her, like yourself, never really, because you're so focused on the job and it's not about the accolades or wanting to win an award and everything, you're just committed to doing good and serving the people of Sierra Leone, that you never ever really stop and take time to process how much of a trailblazer, of an icon. As I mentioned in the introduction, I think for the longest time in Sierra Leone, when we think about integrity, accountability, transparency, there is not going to be a name that comes close to Lara Taylor-Pearce. Do you have any appreciation of how much of an icon and a role model you are?
So the other day, I was telling my husband that, look, I sit here, everybody's calling. This person wants you to go talk there. This person wants you to be their mentor there. And this person wants you to be there. Just be part of what they're doing. I say, hey, yeah. I say, some of them picking and they don't know, say me, I don't tire myself for this kind of thing. So yes, at that level,
Okay.
I'm having that and I'm happy about that. And I just hope that the few that have actually come close, that I have had to deal with, really understand what it is all about. It's not just admiring the person. It has to do with you making up your mind that this person had to do this and that and the other to get to where they were. One of the things I realized that affects a lot of young people is the fact that many of them want to get there without going through.
Absolutely.
And that is affecting a lot of them. When I started working at KPMG, I never would look at my boss at the time to say, oh, I want this kind of way they drive. I want this SAP 9Os. We will admire them, yes, because that was nice. But you know the members say, oh, I want her by all costs. I want her by all means. No. Myself and my husband, we worked together. We grew together to get everything that we have. And we made sacrifices and we made choices. You know, at this point in time, we don't have any debt, as far as I know. I have access to his account. We have a joint account, and I see what's there. I see what goes in and out, and I don't think he's paying any debt for something I'm not aware of. So, and we teach our children, because even like, I could remember a few days ago, the older girl wanted to go out with a friend of hers. And she said, oh, mommy, so says I should go out with her. But the ticket, and she's doing her business, so she has money. But sometimes, you know, these young ones, they always say they don't have money.
Bank of mommy and bank of daddy.
Yes. So she said, I asked her, how much did she told me the app? I said, oh, if you want to go, I'll go give you the money. Oh, no, mom, don't worry. So that independent thing is there. You know, the younger girl would say, she's in the UK at the moment, and she would say, I would say to her, Natasha, do I do blah, blah, blah with you? Oh, no, mommy, I'm fine. When I visit her, she's the one who would say, I'd say, let's go shopping. Oh, no. I want to go to that restaurant. She likes her mouth. The older one would say, okay, let me have. So I'm not worried that they'll get their hands into things that would give them problems, money things. Okay. You know, because they have been taught to be satisfied with what they want, with what they have. And where you don't have, just wait and
contentment.
And be content with what you have. I see it all the time. I see it all the time in them. And I thank God for that.
That's good.
Yes.
This has been a really interesting and insightful conversation. But before we let you go, so there's this thing I'm thinking I'd like for us to do, just because we have a bit of a young audience, but also to just know, you know, a bit more the person behind the name and all of that. Okay. As the Gen Zs would say, the Auditor General of our time. So few rapid answer questions. Are you ready?
Okay.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
You like tea and not coffee?
No, I don't like coffee.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody in this house is coffee. I am the other one now. Everybody does coffee, I do tea. Everybody does iPhone, I do Samsung.
No way.
In this house. Yeah.
No, not iPhone.
No, they all have iPhones.
Why am I doing this interview?
And just Samsung. I have a little iPad, which I was forced to have when Natasha went to university, and she said, oh, Mom, we want to do FaceTime. So I was forced to have a little iPad. That's old because she went to university in 2020. So that's 5 years old.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs. No cats for me.
We're on the same page on that. Cars, SUVs or cars?
SUVs.
Boats or aeroplanes?
Both. Aeroplanes, both. I don't have problems with boats.
The beach or nature, the mountains, the trees.
The trees.
Can you swim?
No.
That makes sense.
We're from that generation wherein our parents would say, no, they go in the water. Oh. No. I can't swim. My brother can't swim. My sister can't swim. But our children are like fish in the water.
And this is a two-part final question. Favorite salon dish? The one we like for eat and the one we like for cook, or the one we sabi cook past all?
Sabi cook. The one I like for eat. I like banga soup. I like okra soup. I like bitters. Yes. You are sabi cook. I sabi cook they all.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for making time. Thank you for welcoming us into your home. This has been really, really amazing. I can see, as you have mentioned, that you're enjoying the time out, the quietness. Please know that we miss you out there, but of course you have earned the rest, you know, and I know you don't need me to say it, but I hope you recognize and understand that there is a whole generation and there's a whole multitude of Sierra Leoneans who are exceedingly proud of the work you did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your service, and we look forward to seeing what comes next.
Thank you too, and thank you to giving me this opportunity to have a conversation with you. I really enjoyed the conversation. Yeah, I'm happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our guest today has been Lara Taylor-Pearce. We've talked about an array of things, her background, what made her who she is, what she did in the office of Auditor General, and what she spends her time doing now. This is their story. If you want to see more of these stories, if you want to see who we have next on this platform, remember to like, subscribe, follow our channel, and thank you for watching.